Do you feel that you have the right mindset to be an entrepreneur but you don't know from where to start? Do you keep asking your friend and coming up with amazing idea for startup but you don't really get professional feedback? Today we're going to discuss on what is the best way to be able to launch successfully your startup. So in today's video I'm going to discuss how an accelerator program can help you to prepare yourself to launching your startup. Now for those who don't know, accelerator program are programs that are usually or in some cases funded by the government or funded by private company with the intent of picking an entrepreneur that actually have a very good pitch for their product or an idea, and throughout this whole course period you'll be having mentors that will be obviously shadowing you and giving you all the resource and tool to eventually be able to do a demo day and obviously pitch your idea to potential investors. Best way for you guys to actually take part in the accelerator program is to obviously go to your local municipality website or go to the country website. In most countries there is an initiative of promoting a specific sector. In some countries it might do with more cybersecurity, maybe agriculture, maybe 5G or many other sectors. So once you understand what is the city, what is the government priority, there's most likely going to be a lot of funding in regards to mentoring the future entrepreneur and startup. So please start looking into it because in most cases those programs are either free or very cheap. So I'm going to now discuss over the element that will be usually covered in any traditional accelerator program, so you understand what to expect and why it's actually very important to join an accelerator program. Something that will probably cover in your accelerator program is something called orientation. Now orientation, the purpose of it is obviously to have an introduction with your colleagues or your team members in an accelerator program for you to be able to pitch for the first time your startup idea. So obviously in some cases you might be even have a time limit. You will be given a 30-second or 1 minute or 2 minutes to obviously to try and present your idea, and also to give you a much broader understanding what is a business model, what is the startup. And obviously in some cases you might even be recorded. Now the purpose of this orientation is also to be able to have a starting point of who you are, what is your current knowledge and level, and obviously for the next few sessions or for the next few months to be able to actually to go and look at how you were initially, and you're probably going to see a very tremendous growth and a very big learning curve. So one of the other elements you're also going to cover in your accelerator program is something called design thinking. Now design thinking is basically to try to understand what is the problem that your startup is trying to solve. So basically understanding the whole idea, concept, has it been solved before, what is the solution. So this is basically to actually to tackle the reason of if your startup has a real need, because sometimes we're really in love with our ideas and our startup, and when we start digging in and understanding is that the startup we actually are really in love with, we start to understand that maybe it's not really solving the problem we thought initially. And obviously being able to present it in a class or hearing other people, the whole process of understanding what their startup is trying to solve. And obviously sometimes we don't really know what is a problem we're trying to solve. So all of these things obviously one step further to make you prepare toward the end goal. The end goal is also to have a clear vision, understand what you're trying to achieve, understand who are your target audience, and obviously to try and present your idea and to do a very big pitch toward your VC or investors. So this is something that might be obvious, but it's not really obvious. Actually, the business model. Now, business model for a startup has many different variations. We have some of the business models such as freemium. Basically, you're not paying anything, and eventually you are making money from the data of the user. So if you look at Facebook, for example, that will be freemium business model. So first, understanding what is the business model that you actually are gonna use in order to be profitable or to also reach your goal. And second of all, understand what is the pain that you actually are trying to solve, and to see if there's currently any other competitor or if it's been tried to solve. Sometimes some issues that are being tried to solve has been tried for so many times, but there wasn't any solution. So let's just give an example. I now have a startup, and the purpose of the startup is to eliminate cancer. Now this is obviously it's a big issue that has been tried, and a lot of different startup or pharmaceutical company have tried to solve. So understanding what was the reason why other hasn't done it or why hasn't been achieved yet, and also to try and understand where are you, what are your advantage, and are you going to be working with the competitors, are you going to be working with partners, how are you going to be able to successfully launch your startup. So let's say your business is to do with solar energy, so obviously you need to partner with a manufacturer, for example. Okay, so in this case you have to communicate and partner with the manufacturer. Then obviously you might need to also partner with some contractor to install the solar panel, and maybe even thinking about doing some advertisement, so maybe even reaching out to local municipality or local government that they also have their own initiative, obviously going green, for example. So it's a lot of research you need to do in order to understand who will be your partners, who will be your competitors, and how you're going to be able to make a successful business plan out of it. You need to become an expert in your industry. So like the other example, let's say you are trying to solve energy in a village in a third world country, for example. So in this case, you need to understand who are your competitors, what are the costs, what is the advantage, what is the price range, how many people are using it. So it's really diving in and understanding, because if I'm going to invest in your startup, I need to understand that whoever I'm talking to have done the research and know exactly who are his competitor, who might be actually trying to kick your business basically, or try to make you not very successful. So this is obviously will show that you know what you're doing and you're a master in your field. Is your ideal customer that will most likely use your products? Understand their socioeconomic, understand their age, geographic, their pattern, what are the specific customer you're targeting, what are the vertical product that they're using. I'll give an example. So let's say you're trying to launch milk, an organic milk. So in most cases, people that are using milk will use milk for, let's say, for coffee, let's say for making cake and cereal, for example. So this will be the other industry that your customer will probably use the milk that you're trying to launch. So it's really understanding the whole ecosystem, the whole life cycle of your customer. So how much money is he making, how often is he most likely to purchase, what sort of product is he currently using, how easy is it going to be for you to actually to target this customer. Is it going to be more targeting via social media, via influencer, and via affiliation, via partners? So this is really understanding what is the best way for you to actually to reach your customer, and what is the budget of the customer. So obviously if you have a very expensive product or an idea or software solution, for example, and it costs $50,000, obviously you're not going to be targeting 18 to 25 years old. You're going to be targeting very specific demographic of the population. So understanding obviously who are your customer and how much they're willing to spend obviously help you understand how you can obviously price the product. So this is obviously going to highly show the character of the entrepreneur, understanding all this element whenever he's going to be able to pitch or launch his startup. So obviously if I'm trying to sell organic milk that costs $1,000 per liter, and currently my customers I'm targeting are spending $10 per liter for milk, obviously it's going to be very hard for me to convince. Either I need to sell a lot of milk or I need to reduce my costs. There's a lot of elements that you need to obviously ask yourself. Prototype. Now prototype will cover like the most valuable element that you need in order to launch a product. So let's say the first product you're going to launch probably going to be the most generic product that obviously will solve a certain issue. Now you might decide that in the future people want to have a product more circular, triangular. So obviously this is not important at this current stage. So any specific one is to create a good enough product that people will understand what you're trying to do and will solve some of their issue. And this stage, you're not supposed to solve all the issues. You're supposed to solve one of the main issues that you want to focus and you want to be known for. So if you're in a solar, if you're in a solar energy industry, and your goal is to be able to help people to have light in their house where they're not able to afford electricity. So you want to be known initially as a company that started to provide solutions for household by generating electricity from the sun. Now in the future you might want to also target businesses. So whenever you're building a startup, you obviously need to think at a very minimal level. So what do I need to do right now to be able to present my idea, to be good enough to see the potential? Now in this specific prototype, you also need to cover the technology, what makes you unique, and how you're actually going to solve the problem. So if you have an amazing technology or patent, this will be where you're obviously going to be highlighting that you are using a very unique, sophisticated technology for the purpose of solving a problem that hasn't yet been solved. Trying to explain your vision to a group of professionals or people that are in the startup industry might not seem that easy. So try to imagine you need obviously to try to explain in many different variations what your company do. Some people ask you, please tell me in one sentence, what do you do? Some people would say, explain to me in 30 seconds. So be able to understand and explain and write your company vision and what you're actually trying to achieve in a very professional and neat way. This will be very, very easy for some people and also very, very hard. For me, I think it's not as easy thing. Obviously, this is where you need to rely on your co-founders, on your team to obviously to use the best skill of the team members to also to be able to put the vision on a piece of paper. So if you need to create a brochure or flyers or illustration, so it's going to be very clear. Whoever going to look at the piece of paper or whoever going to understand the vision or just hearing the sentence will understand exactly what you're trying to achieve. Now if you are in a new industry that never has been created, this will probably you're gonna find it's very challenging. Now, for example, I have a friend or part of my one of my team member. He basically created a washing machine that is the size of a microwave. So basically, he's presenting his vision as a portable washing machine that can basically wash clothes for 30 seconds, for example. So this is something that it's very easy to remember, or saying, for example, that your vision is like a gig economy or like let's say Airbnb for something will probably help people to understand your vision on what you're trying to achieve. Probably the most challenging aspect of the accelerator program will be to discuss or to dive into the business strategy or business plan. Now, business plan will probably cover also like forecasting, trying to understand the costs, the revenue, and for example, strategy. So it's actually just not as easy as it sounds. You also might need to use an accountant or might need to use some online template to be able to present some realistic ideas where your company is heading. Because so you obviously has an amazing idea, you convince everyone, you know your competitor, you know your customers, you have an amazing product, and now you obviously need to try to convince an investor. So you need to say like, I love what you're trying to do, I believe in your product, you're very unique, and you obviously need to understand what is the projection or growth of the company. No one gonna invest in any company if the projection are not realistic or they're not achievable. So obviously, whenever you're preparing your business plan with a projection, you have to be realistic. Now, it's impossible to do a realistic projection for a business that never been created. So it's obviously, you try to find the middle ground of saying that you're gonna have on the first year 10,000 customers. When you're targeting, let's say B2B, it's probably not realistic. But if you're targeting B2C, depending on the business model, if it's freemium, so we can say aiming to get 10,000 subscribers or 10,000 users, for example, might sound realistic. But obviously, you need to back it up with actually a lot of data, reporting, forecasting. Now, this is where your team member will obviously be able to validate and provide more resources to make whoever going to look at the data feel more comfortable. One of maybe the last element you're also going to cover will be marketing. So obviously understanding who are your target audience, how you're going to reach this target audience. Is it going to be via partners? Is it going to be via direct targeting, Google ads, Facebook campaign, TikTok campaign, and PR release? There is many different ways. You obviously need to understand what is the best way for you to reach your target audience. If, for example, you're targeting or your business model is freemium, you obviously need to take into consideration whenever you build a business plan, also the cost of acquisition. So acquisition is to basically getting a customers. Now, this is also something for you to understand and to take into account. So once you went over all the aspects obviously I mentioned, you're probably going to be having maybe once or twice you'll be required to present the idea to your team members. Obviously, the more you go throughout the time, the more comfortable you're going to be. One of the best way for me to actually to be able to present and my idea and start is obviously to record myself, present myself next to a mirror, and maybe get a few of my friends just for me to feel more comfortable recording. Obviously, I also recommend you to get a timer. In most cases, you are given a specific time to present your idea. It's very easy to obviously to go too much into details. Please remember that after 2-5 minutes, most likely people will not remember everything you said. So just maybe focus on the key elements. So when you're making presentation, do not put too much words. Maybe just title, maybe some illustration, and then do not obviously read from the presentation. Just try to be as natural as possible and hope for the best. Now, you're obviously going to be getting throughout the course, you're going to be getting a lot of feedback from your team members. Obviously, I highly recommend you to take everything in because they are exactly in the same position as you. They are looking to launch their startup and they want to get a sincere and authentic feedback from their peers. Now, this is something that they cannot get from the friend or from the family because the friend and family do not understand the whole process, the cost, the risk, and how this whole industry. So obviously getting all the feedback from your mentor, following through all the assignment you've been given during the Accelerator program will definitely help you to prevent you from making any severe mistake and make you a better entrepreneur. Now, in my specific case, I joined this Accelerator program. I pitched an idea which they really like, and when I dive in after a few weeks, I've done even more research and assume that the startup idea is not sustainable and it has a lifespan of 2 years maximum. Now, the good thing about Accelerator program is that you have like an environment, or I will say a virtual environment. You actually are able to experiment and throw some idea and obviously try to validate yourself and also the team members and the mentor as if this idea that you have, is it realistic or not. And after you get all this feedback, you're obviously able to separate between ideas to potential startup and business opportunity. So I hope this video was very helpful, because the Accelerator program really helped me shape my mindset and my sharpness when it comes to startup. Now, I haven't yet really launched my own startup, but what I also did after I graduated from this Accelerator program, I joined a few forums. I sometimes even volunteered in helping out other co-founders or startup, where just to obviously be able to keep the vibe, keep the energy, and just keep my mind open to hearing some ideas until I find the right startup, until I decide to create a startup and obviously make it successful. So I hope this video was very helpful. My name is Yari, and you can subscribe to the channel, and until next time, thank you, bye bye.